McCabe, Matt McCabe, Brian Albert Jr., and Julie Albert were all there. I'm sorry, had Julie Albert gotten there yet?
She came after me.
Okay. So at some point, all the people that I just ticked off, they were all inside the house.
Brian Albert Jr., Nicole, Brian, Matt, and Jen.
It's a lot of people, man. That's a lot of people in the same place at the same time who were there from the event the day before, who are suddenly in a room together. I wonder for what purpose they might be in the room together. Let's listen to some more.
You all discussed the incident together, correct?
I wouldn't describe it that way, no.
Did each of you discuss your own perspectives about what had happened the night before in the early morning hours?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
People were in shock at the table, trying to figure out what happened. The math didn't make sense. John and the defendant never showed up.
Well, I certainly agree with him that the math doesn't make sense. We've discussed that with respect to the timeline and also, of course, the Celebrate data and other logs. So yes, there are problems with the math. I will agree with the witness as to that much.
We're in shock.
Trying to figure out what to say, right?
No.
And you were all talking within earshot of each other, right?
We were all there in the kitchen talking together.
At this meeting, and these were friends and family, correct?
Excuse me?
These were friends and family amongst themselves, and you being a friend. These are friends and family inside that house discussing this incident, correct?
Yes.
So at this meeting, you actually instructed Jennifer McCabe to call Canton PD and ask someone to come back.
Objection.
Sustained as to that form, you can ask it differently.
At some point, did an officer come back to re-interview Jen McCabe?
Yes.
Jen McCabe had told you that she had information about something that Ms. Reed had said, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Did she tell you that morning?
She didn't specifically tell me anything. She made a statement at the table to the group of people and she clearly seemed like she was in shock. She was upset. And she made a statement, something to the effect that Karen had opined that she had hit John.
What she actually said was, I hope I didn't hit him, correct?
Objection.
It's not what I heard. No.
Okay.
Who did you ever tell this to?
I've reported that.
That
When?
she said, I hit him?
Yes, I've reported it.
What you reported was Karen said, I hope I didn't hit him, and you said, oh, you need to tell Canton PD that. Isn't that right?
No, I don't think that's what I said. No.
You're sure?
You know, if there were a report that he heard this person say, I heard the defendant say, I hit him, you think that would be in a report. So you would imagine that the statement would be presented in a report and there would be a record of it, but there's not a record of it. This critical statement of the defendant who said, I hit him according to you, but there's no record of it. You, a trained ATF agent, did not make a record of this critical information, as, by the way, you yourself said that you were all there trying to figure out what happened. And now that you have this critical, nice little moist thing that you've got here, this critical little minor appetizer, you're not going to make a record of it, even though you were there for the purpose of trying to figure out what happened. That doesn't sound incredibly plausible. I have some questions. I have some questions, sir.
Mr. Higgins, what time did you leave Brian Albert's house?
It would have been, I believe, when Sergeant Lank arrived, and I think Lieutenant Gallagher might have been with him.
You weren't scheduled to work that Saturday, correct?
No.
Matter of fact, you weren't on duty at all.
No, I wasn't.
Yep.
But you didn't go home and get some sleep or run errands. You went directly to Canton PD from 34 Fairview yet again, didn't you?
Who could sleep after somebody just was discovered like that?
Did you go home? Or did you?
I don't believe I did, no. I believe there might have been a stop at Canton PD before I went home.
As a matter of fact, you didn't just stop at Canton PD. You spent the entire day at Canton PD on the 29th, didn't you?
I don't know that I spent the entire day there, no.
Well, you've got a key card, right?
I do have a key card.
And that key card logs swipes.
That's correct.
So it logs where you go, access to, and access inside the
Yes.
Canton PD, correct?
Yes.
When you got to Canton PD, and you're telling this jury you don't know how long you spent there.
I don't know how long I spent there. I don't know if I left and I came back. I don't recall.
Is it that you don't recall because you were still completely hungover? I mean, we don't know how many drinks he had, right? Because we only know a couple. I mean, we have at this point fast forwarded like 8 hours in time. But is it because you don't recall because you were blacking out at the station as you were moving cars? It could be that. But he doesn't seem to know things. Okay, all right.
So if the records indicate that you were there from 9 a.m.-ish, after 5,
I don't know how the records would indicate that.
I'll show you.
The badge in, badge out records of the police station are also wrong. Wow. All these databases. The Celebrite data, the cell phone data, the text search data, the badge swipe data of the police station, all these records are incorrect. All these records are wrong. I don't know how it could possibly reflect that. It must be the database that's mistaken. My dog ate my homework is less cute at your age, sir.
A second.
Okay.
While you were at Canton PD, did you speak again to Brian Albert?
I don't remember.
While you were at Canton PD, did you speak again to Chief Berkowitz?
Most likely.
While you were at Canton PD, did you speak with Brian Albert's brother, Kevin Albert?
I don't believe so. So it says Canton Police, all events logged by date.
So don't read it out loud, please.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Just,
Laura.
do you recognize
Yes, I do.
it?
Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
This appears to be a log of key swipes in and around Canton PD, correct?
Yes.
And that's in reverse chronological order. You acknowledge that that is a record of the key swipes that everybody uses moving in and around Canton PD, going through doors, every place that needs a key swipe is logged.
I would assume that's what that is, yes.
It shows that you entered Canton PD for the first time on the 29th at 1:27 a.m. Does that sound about right? When you got there, you say to move your cars.
It's possible.
All right.
I think it's very, very
It shows
possible.
that you were
Well, I mean, I only, on that 8th entry, I see that's associated with my name. I don't know what the other ones are associated with.
right. It would be other individuals in Canton PD. I mean, this is the entire log for 129, right?
Okay, but what all I'm saying is that just my name is next to that. I don't see any other names, so.
Right.
Okay.
So on 129, 2022, I'm just trying to orient you. At 127 and 52 seconds,
I see
access
it.
granted, Brian Higgins, rear entry to secure corridor, rear entry to secure corridor, correct?
Yes.
All right, so that appears to be what the log entry or the key swipe entry looks like when it's logged, correct?
Yes.
I don't want to belabor this because we could get bogged down into it all day long. Would you have any quarrel if those logs indicated that you were moving in and around Canton PD at 9:28, 9:53, 9:53, 9:54, 9:54, 11:40, etc.? We can look at every one of them if you want to. Well, that doesn't refresh your recollection.
It would not be uncommon for me to move around Canton PD at various times or dates,
Right.
middle of the night, during the day. But just because I swiped in somewhere and then you have a swipe at the end of the day doesn't mean I was there the whole day. I could have left, I could have come back, and I truly don't have a recollection, but I'm pretty sure I wasn't there all day.
Fair enough. If we moved from 11:40 to 11:44, 11:45, 11:47, 11:51, 11:52, and then jump to 2:05, would that be an explanation where you might have gone out for lunch, 11:52?
Could have.
Okay, come back. If
Yes.
there's a 2:05 and 56 entry, then obviously you're there, right?
If the card was swiped, I was there.
I mean, you're not given that You're not giving that card to anybody else.
No, I'm not.
No way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Let's
no
just
way.
look at 2905, because I want you to be comfortable. Page 2905, and let's look at that 205 and 56 entry.
You know you're in trouble, right? The logs contradict you, sir. Another log,
2905.
another
Where would you like me to
contradiction.
look?
So that would indicate that you were back at Canton PD at least 205:56, and you were granted access Sallyport to front door, correct?
That's what it says, yes.
Okay. At 3:10 p.m., you called Brian Albert's brother, Kevin Albert, correct?
I don't know.
More calls.
It's possible.
Okay.
I mean, I don't remember every phone call I made that day.
Understood. Do you remember talking to Kevin Albert?
I don't.
So you don't remember what you discussed with him?
No.
Do you remember that it was a 12-minute phone call?
No, I don't remember having any phone call, but I'm sure it's possible that we spoke.
Do you remember Kevin Albert providing you any information about the ongoing investigation into John O'Keefe's death?
No.
Did you ask him about additional information concerning John O'Keefe's death?
No.
Were you providing details back to Brian Albert that you were receiving while at Canton PD?
Absolutely not. No.
Sure. More
Do you
phone calls
recall
with more
that 2 minutes
witnesses.
after you cleared the call with Kevin Albert, you then called Brian Albert?
It's possible.
So I think the question was, do you remember? Do you remember that?
Your Honor, there was a lot of phone calls made that day. It was an upsetting day. I spoke to multiple people at multiple times. I don't have a recollection. I'm sorry.
Well, I think that's kind of the problem. I mean, to some degree, you were talking to multiple people at multiple times is exactly the problem, because the people you were talking to were witnesses in the case, right? Just in the same way that you had a conversation with them earlier when you were all in the same room. Now you're having phone conversations with them after going to the police department and spending some quality time there. And you were then calling them again about over and over to talking about, I don't know, the weather or something, I'm sure. Okie doke.
Just to close this loop, that appears to be your phone record, correct?
Yes.
And it appears that you made a call at 3:10 for 12 minutes with Kevin Albert, correct?
Yes.
3:10 plus 12 is 3:22, correct?
Yes.
You had cleared the call about 3:22, is that right?
Yes.
And then it shows a 3:24 phone call to Brian. Brian Albert then calls you at 3:24, correct?
Yes.
And you two speak for 6 minutes, is that right?
6 minutes, 5 seconds. Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Yep, we got the
Yeah,
records,
for
baby.
recollection that You made those calls?
Based on the record, yes.
Was that just a coincidence that you were talking to Brian Albert and Kevin Albert within minutes of one another?
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot going on that day. People were upset. And I don't remember the phone calls. I don't
So
deny
many
making
phone
the
calls.
phone calls. I just don't remember them.
Do you
So many
remember
phone calls and so many
providing
witnesses.
Information that you were learning from Kevin Albert to Brian Albert.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I wouldn't relay any information from one witness to another. Why would I do that? That'd be a silly thing to do.
If you look just below those phone calls to Kevin Albert and Brian Albert, there's 2 additional phone calls that you had with Chief Berkowitz and then Brian Albert again, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Higgins, it looks an awful lot like you're gleaning information from Canton PD. Were you doing that?
Objection.
So I sustain the objection in that form. You can ask one part of that question.
Sure. Were you getting any information from Canton PD?
No, I wasn't.
Did you provide any information to Brian Albert
No, I did not.
based on any conversations or conduct at Canton PD?
No.
May I approach?
Yes.
It just so happened I was there. It just so
But you were,
happened
in
I called
fact,
those people.
On the phone with all of those interested parties throughout the day, you'll agree.
I was.
Answer that.
Okay.
There's
Yes,
no
Your Honor.
objection. You can
Yes, they're friends, and I was on the phone with them. Yes.
And sir, you were not on duty that day, correct?
No,
You are not a Canton police officer, correct?
that's correct.
You were not assigned to this investigation in
Yep.
any formal capacity, were you?
I was not.
As a matter of fact, you're a witness
Yeah.
and a homicide investigation.
Yeah.
That's your only role in this, correct?
I mean, yeah, that's pretty much his only role. He's ATF. He's not Canton Police, but he's spending all day at Canton Police, going up and down from various floors from the badge logs that are surely wrong, going up and down various floors, speaking to the chief of police, even though he's not a police officer. And then once he has conversations with the chief of police, talking to other witnesses, to talk to other witnesses. And then he was at a house talking about all the witnesses and things like that. But we're not talking about the case, mind you. No. We're talking about other things. The day after the murder. I'm not trying to relay information from one witness to another. There's no reason. There's many reasons for me to be down there. Even though I'm just a witness in this capacity. I'm only a witness. But look at all the police level things I'm doing. Exciting.
That's correct, but they're still my friends, yes.
And yet you're still having conversations
They may be your friends, but more of the point, they're witnesses in this context. So, yeah.
with Kevin Albert at Canton PD while you're at Canton PD, correct?
Not about this.
And you're
Not
having
about this.
conversations with Chief Berkowitz of Canton PD while you're at Canton PD, correct?
I had conversations with him, but not about this, no.
And you're consistently through the day calling Brian Albert. aren't you?
I had conversations with Brian Albert. John was found on his lawn. Yes, of course I had phone conversations with him.
I want to take you back for a second.
Well, for a man who has no official role in the investigation, for a man who's just an ATF agent, obviously not local police, ATF, of course, are federal. They don't have general police jurisdiction. This is not a ATF matter. But for a guy who, has no affiliation with the police, spending an awful lot of time at the police department in the immediate aftermath of the murder, spending an awful lot of time going up and down floors at the police department, spending an awful lot of time speaking to the chief of police, speaking an awful lot of time both in person and over the phone to various witnesses. But in no way was I talking about the case, relaying information from the police department to people, getting information, relaying it to the police department, speaking to the chief of police about the people, or otherwise coordinating our messages. These were all just conversations that we were having completely unrelated to the case. Is anyone buying this story?